Welcome to Season 2, Episode 4, Luna Eclipsed. Oh man, I love this episode. This is such a nice episode. But getting into the bad friend point, we've got 3 to give out. For last episode, since I had everyone else vote on it, the predominant vote was for Twilight to get the point because she literally enchanted the entire town. And you know what? You're right. That's fair. I completely agree. As for this episode, if you know this episode, you know damn well that Pinky's gonna get the point, and I'm even gonna give Rainbow a point for near the end of the episode. Oh, I really enjoy this one. Let's get into it. We open on Spike, adorably dressed as a dragon, and Twilight dressed as Star Swirl the Bearded, and I believe that this is where his name is first dropped as a character. The reason they're dressed like this is because today is Halloween, or as the ponies call it, Nightmare Night, in reference to Nightmare Moon. We'll explain the origin more later on. And we see some fillies trick-or-treating with Granny Smith. Why is she doing this? I guess it's a sweet thing to do, but it's so weird that she's doing this for random fillies instead of like the CMC or something. Anyway, we hear their trick-or-treat jingle. Nightmare night, what a fright, give us something good to bite. I'm not entirely sure if it's different regionally, but for me, our version in this world was trick-or-treat, smell my feet, give us something good to eat, which is definitely more confusing than the pony equivalent. Is the quote-unquote smell my feet thing supposed to be like an example of a trick? I don't really get it. I also never really went trick-or-treating as a kid, so I'm going almost entirely off of Halloween specials. Granny Smith even mentions how she should have been asleep already, which, while a funny joke, is also a little sad for the poor old pony having to play babysitter while tired. Granted, she becomes much less decrepit later on in the series, but right now she's just sort of, haha, I'm old, funny joke character, which is hit or miss for me most of the time, to be honest. I think this is our first appearance of Pip, the cute little guy who gets some spotlighting later on in some CMC episodes. He's also dressed as a pirate, which is one of my personal favorite aesthetics. His full name is also Pipsqueak, but everyone just calls him Pip, so I'm gonna do that as well. He also explains that this is his first Nightmare Night ever, and Twilight asks if he means since he moved from Trottingham, which gives us a reason why he hasn't appeared in the show before. And we get to the worst part of the episode, and who you already know will be getting the bad friend point, Pinky, who will proceed to Pinkyism all over this episode and ruin everything the entire time, only to be easily forgiven at the end. Thankfully, we will be seeing Twilight get annoyed and agitated at her, so at least we get that. Pinky then calls Twilight a clown and steals the candy meant for kids. Starting off strong. Here we get to see how the pony populace depict Nightmare Moon, which is cool. Also, this probably is just meant to be a bat, but I immediately thought of the bat signal in Batman, so maybe a fun nod, but probably not. Twilight exposits about Star Swirl the Bearded, explaining that he invented over 200 spells and has a shelf in the Canterlot Library named after him. Star Swirl fills a similar role to Celestia in a sense that Twilight adores and reveres him as an important figure in her life. I guess idolize would be the best word for that. Oh my god, Mr. and Mrs. Cake look adorable! It looks kind of like Raggedy Ann and Raggedy Andy if I had to guess. Spike also just has a lot of candy out of nowhere. He just sort of spawned with it. Rainbow arrives and demonstrates her favorite part of Nightmare Night, scaring the pants off unsuspecting ponies. Kind of a dick move, if I'm honest. It's not like she's working at a haunted house or something, she just does it for the love of the game. That being said, Pinky deserves this, so it's fine in this case only. She's also dressed as a Shadow Bolt, which as far as I know is just a reference to their experiences in the series premiere. Not sure if the Shadow Bolts have any history outside of that. It's a little weird to dress up as like a creature that attacked you, but I guess it kind of also makes sense. I don't know. Applejack is the one running a bunch of games and events, and that makes sense. Not that many ponies engaging with it from the empty background though, so whatever. I'm more concerned about this long curve that looks horribly painful. Derpy 40 randomly appears in the scene, replacing the stallion that was there. Also, her costume is adorable. Also, her cutie mark is on the inside of her leg, like with what happened with Photo Finish back in Season 1, Episode 20. Side note, they're doing a running gag of no one knowing who Twilight's costume is, we've had Weird Clown, Grumpy Old Neighbor, and Country Music Star. This is actually relevant to the episode a little bit later. Not like super important relevant, but just relevant. This crowd was literally copy and pasted twice. They made the crowd of Pinky and her fillies, the Cakes, the CMC, and Rainbow, and then just copied it again. You think I wouldn't notice? That's fair, I miss a lot of stuff, but not this! This I noticed. They changed the crowd to be now a different series of copy and pastes. We have 3 knights, 3 ghosts, 3 Vikings, and 2 Cleopatras. Minuet's nurse outfit is also adorable, by the way. We finally get more Zecora after a decent break from her, as she is shown to not only be allowed into the town now, but is welcomed as a friend. The only time we saw her before her debut was just when Twilight went to visit her, so this is good to see. Zecora has also been given the role of relaying the story of Nightmare Moon and Nightmare Night. We see that the Everfree Forest has a statue of Nightmare Moon for some reason. There may have been a cult that followed her, or maybe Ponyville just made this for Nightmare Night specifically. It also can't be too deep into the Everfree Forest, because it would be way too dangerous to let all these fillies and colts into the forest that has cockatrices, timberwolves, and ursas. Then again, child safety isn't really a thing in this world, aside from like 2 episodes involving Applebloom and Applejack. So the zebra culture just literally has magic. Even though she's not a unicorn, Zecora is able to use a special dust reagent to produce illusions of like Nightmare Moon and stuff. The zebra lore alone makes me want to read some of the comics, but I can't really be bothered. I have so much reading on my plate as is. However, I imagine it's some form of either voodoo or alchemy based on what we see Zecora do a lot of the time with like potions and a pot and a bunch of ingredients. So basically the reason for Nightmare Night is that ponies believe that Nightmare Moon would scour the lands looking for ponies to eat, so they come dressed up in costumes to fool her. Also, this Nightmare Moon illusion has quite the long face. Also, her wings are not really the same as a Pegasi wings in my opinion. They look more insectile, but not like changeling insectile, if you know what I mean. And they offer candy to Nightmare Moon to satisfy her hunger and make her leave for another year. Standard cute Halloween stories for the kiddies. Also, I haven't mentioned it, but the CMC are dressed as the big three monsters: werewolf, vampire, and Frankenstein. Well, the bride of Frankenstein, but you know. So Luna has like vampire Pegasi that she uses to pull her chariot, which never really get brought up again and confuse the hell out of me. Are they just illusions she creates? Was my point back in the series premiere about her creating illusions with masks true? Also, what would these even be called? We call Fluttershy Flutterbat in that future episode, but what the heck are these? And are they just wearing costumes maybe? But no, like their ears are fully feathered and stuff. I don't know, this just is weird. Pinky calls out that it's Nightmare Moon and they should run, which even gets Sakura to be frightened enough to scamper away. Wild. But it's also extremely effed up to use Luna's greatest shame and humiliation and fear against her like that, and it will become increasingly gross as this episode goes on. Pinky completely disregarding the feelings of Luna are going to upset me this episode. I really like this guy's costume, and I think it's kind of like a reference to a folk tale or something I'm not aware of, because like I don't really know anything about a Viking getting bit or eaten by a shark. Not really familiar with it. Also, a fun detail is how everyone in Ponyville bows before Luna, even Spike, but Twilight remains tall, which might not make sense entirely because of the pedestal she puts Celestia on, but we've been seeing Celestia more and more in the series be reasonable, so maybe she's starting to come around and see them as just more ponies, or she thinks she's special because she's Celestia's apprentice. I don't know. Twilight excitedly calls her Princess Luna and moves to greet her, but is stopped and told to stay down and be quiet by Spike. I get the sense that ponies are just straight up more afraid of Luna due to her only recently returning from being Nightmare Moon, which is a good showing and not telling, but also kind of sad. Also, just a quick side note, but I'm sad we didn't get to see Luna in the Great Grand Galloping Gala. Like, it was a nighttime party, she's out at night, we didn't get to see her at all. That's kind of sucky. And Luna's first major role has her opening lines be very arrogant and royal sounding, which feels very out of place of her season 1 lines, but that was also an intimate moment with her sister that she hadn't seen in 1,000 years, and this is her interacting with the general populace trying to keep up royal appearances. She's shouting loudly while exclaiming that she has graced their town with her presence and they can bask in her glory, showing that 1,000 years ago things were very different. The princesses were likely even treated as gods back then, whereas Celestia has been striving for a more friendly social persona. Beforehand, they ruled as imposing authority figures. Luna's introduction here also obviously scares and worries the ponies, expecting that they may have done something wrong. At least this is the case at first. We'll get into the Pinky situation later. Luna goes on to explain that she's no longer a creature of nightmares and wants to enjoy their love and affection. She also desires to reform Nightmare Night into a glorious and fun celebration and feast instead of this cowering, fear-driven event. A fair goal given her observations and likely an explanation from Celestia about what this event is about. She sees this as everyone trying to make the best of a scary Nightmare Moon situation, and she wants to change that in her image so that they can be more at peace and be happy. Because as we know from season 1, all she wants is to be loved by the people. She's of course not helped by the fact that she seemingly summons lightning with just her voice and presence, though that might also be Rainbow Dash, and I think it might be at some point in this episode. I'm pretty sure, yeah. And so begins Pinky's fear-mongering, kind of like when she was being racist, but with less racism and more lying about what's going on. Luna speaks about how the children no longer need to scream in terror, but scream in delight, along with using us when describing herself. Likely a leftover vocal tick from her Nightmare Moon days, as being two personalities can cause that kind of thing probably. It might as well be a leftover from her days of ruling with Celestia and the sisters being considered like one entity almost. Also, she tries to assuage the pony's fears with the cracks in the earth, another demonstration of alicorn power alongside her lack of understanding of the new age, and not knowing that she needs to be more calm and gentle to get the reaction she desires. Needless to say that she only scares the ponies more with such displays of strength. I imagine she thinks it's comforting that their princess is powerful and can protect them, or something along those lines. We'll hear her thoughts some more in a little bit. Luna then goes to the mayor, recognizing her through her costume, which means she either remembers her from season 1 episode 1, or she did research beforehand. Either way, it's good for her character. However, the mayor fails at her job and cowers in fear when Luna presents her hoof for kissing, which I assume is another leftover from the old ruling days of Equestria. Damn it, mayor, you literally have one job. She even shoves her hoof in another pony's face forcefully, as if every action has a level of accidental hostility, which is more so her attempting to appear powerful. It really shows the immaturity she has both in ruling and social situations. While Celestia has always been the pony of the day and has had constant practice at both, Luna has always been relegated to the night, which makes these interactions challenging because she only knows dreams, where she has to be strong and fight off the nightmares of ponies and provide them comfort. Really good characterization for Luna based off of her history that was established. Spike is not in logical smart boy mode this episode, he's instead in scared whittle baby mode, and thinks Luna is still Nightmare Moon, despite Celestia announcing to everyone that her sister has returned. Also, for the design change from season 1 to 2 Luna, because I haven't talked about it yet, it doesn't really bother me. I like both this and the season 1 design. The season 1 design does make her seem much younger, which could have been her illusion magic, causing her to feel like a helpless child while stuck inside of Nightmare Moon, so the illusion was like forcibly placed on her by herself, like her her subconscious, but that's like a headcanon attempt to make the best of what is probably just a retcon. Honestly, in future episodes where they do like the flashback with Nightmare Moon and Luna, they might actually use that Luna design before she becomes Nightmare Moon. I don't actually remember, but it wouldn't surprise me. It'd be a fun detail. Oh right, and obviously Twilight forces her way out of Spike's grasp to go chase after Luna after seeing her struggling. Twilight should get a good friend point for this episode, because dang, she does her best. Oh my god, the framing for this scene is just magnificent. Luna prostrating herself before her stronger form, literally sitting in the shadow of her past mistakes, downtrodden and afraid she'll never be able to move past it. Absolutely perfect framing for this scene. All of the Twilight costume slander has led up to Luna being the first and only pony to both recognize the costume, due to Star Swirl being her teacher, and complimenting the attention to detail, showing that she, like Celestia, is just a normal pony deep down, putting on a performance for appearance's sake. Also, while the statue looks really goofy and funny at this angle, the composition of this shot is also really good, as this is Nightmare Moon looming over them, constantly there, but unable to interfere. Even with Luna being closer to the statue, showing that she's deeper in the shadow than Twilight, because Twilight was the one who had to dispel the darkness, while Luna is the one who had to live in it and continues to live in it. Luna also knows it's Twilight under the costume, and knows her by her full name and her appearance, despite the costume, and even goes into detail recalling that it was her who dispelled Nightmare Moon and allowed her to return. To which Twilight remarks that it was a good thing, right? And of course Luna agrees with her, thanking her and remarking her happiness at the situation. However, Luna is still using the loud monotone voice, as well as all the theatrics displaying her power some more, because that's all she knows right now. After Twilight remarks how Luna sounded angry at her, Luna reveals that this was the traditional Canterlot voice and that speaking at a loud volume is needed when addressing subjects, with Twilight now becoming the teacher to her teacher sister, which is some nice foreshadowing and symbolism, which probably wasn't intentional, but hey. And explaining that she should probably lower the volume, and gets Luna to speak at a relatively regular tone, though she's still speaking in a more monotone voice. They go towards Fluttershy for help, and then, Fluttershy does what everyone else has been doing and runs away screaming. Luna looks mostly annoyed at ponies continually calling her Nightmare Moon and screaming and running away, though this will slowly change to her being more upset at it as it goes on. Fluttershy tries to yes and her way out of the situation and takes the first opportunity to bolt and run away, but Twilight immediately closes the door, having Fluttershy faceplant into it. I love this joke so much. It's perfectly timed. After doing absolutely nothing, Luna thanks Fluttershy for her help, despite Twilight doing everything. Not entirely sure why we even pulled Fluttershy in here. I guess just to have her show up in the story, I guess. And Pinkie arrives to ruin the night again. Great. Luna going from shouting after them to learning from her lessons just now and speaking in the most demure and adorable tone possible is both a good joke, but also absolutely heart-wrenching, as the tone is filled with the sadness at her desire to feel the love and adoration of her people. While we know Derpy's at the festival, she hasn't appeared for a good amount of scenes, so we'll give her another counting. Derpy 41. This is completely superfluous, as I don't really care about the other background ponies, but this is actually Octavia dressed as a scarecrow. Not sure if she's wearing a different color cloth or dyed her coat, but probably the former. She did, however, dye her hair, unless it's a wig, but I don't think they make tail wigs. Well, they might in this world. Yeah, this was meaningless. I just noticed and thought it was cool, so I just pointed it out. That's what the show is about. Luna laments that they, being the general public, have never liked her. And less of like a resentful, like annoyed tone, and more of just a melancholy, sad one, which is a really good voice work by the VA. But then Twilight lies like a dog and says, Applejack is one of the most likable ponies around. After season 1, that's a load of bull. We need at least one more season before that becomes true. Alright, the reason that Applejack being likable was relevant is because they're gonna have Applejack teach Luna how to be more likable. I forgot to actually mention that part. I was too upset at them claiming Applejack was likable. I know someone said I just don't like Applejack, but trust me, she's just not great in the first seasons. Like, she gets a lot better. Not season 1. Luna asks what fun is. This feels like it should be a joke, but it's actually genuine, as when she tries some of the games, she starts to genuinely smile and laugh and have a good time. Ponies even stop cowering and come watch the princess enjoy the festivities and games available. It's all getting nice and wholesome. The fun has been doubled! Might be one of my favorite Luna lines. At least of the cute and wholesome ones, there are some less happy ones that we'll get to in at least one future episode. On top of her being adorable, Ponyville starts to come alive and cheer for her as well. Hooray! Luna then tells Applejack to call them, correcting herself to me, Luna, showing she's slowly regaining her identity and sense of self. Also, she did clarify that the royal we is used as part of tradition, so my previous thoughts are more of headcanon, but it still makes sense regardless, and could be used for both, so I'll just stick with it. Luna saves Pip, who fell into the bobbing for apples bucket, only for Pinkie to once again arrive to besmirch Luna and instill more fear into the populace. Is Pinkie a terrorist? Well, no, since that appears to need to be a criminal or violent act that's used to instill fear, she is just actually a fearmonger. And Luna, while nervous and worried about losing the positive attitudes she was garnering, lashes out in fear and animates the fake spiders into real ones. Once again, making life. Granted, they're probably more like constructs than actual living, breathing creatures, but still, her magic is crazy. And Luna doesn't properly understand her actions and behaves such as that this was all for the sake of the game and fun, but doesn't really see that she's scaring and upsetting others. Quite tragic in a way, kind of like Pinkie, where she fails to understand the impact she has on others when and doing things she perceives as normal. Though with Pinky, it's due to her probably having a certain condition, while with Luna, it's likely more the 1,000-year time gap and immaturity. Lyra 43. Also, she's wearing her over-a-barrel outfit for some reason. I guess that's a costume. Feels a little strange, though. Luna sees the mass panic ensue, and she can't seem to get a hold of the situation using the means Twilight taught her, and slowly escalates until she unleashes a massive Canterlot shout. And also, it was just regular lightning that was inconveniently timed this entire time, not Rainbow, though Rainbow will show up later. Even Twilight cowers at the power of her voice. She doesn't even use magic here, or at least that doesn't seem like it. It's just that loud and strong of a voice, which is impressive, honestly. And Twilight tries to help corral Luna's emotions, but Luna has lost herself and instead reverts back to the start of the night, coming to the conclusion that she must be loud and strong to keep the citizens under her control. Confusing control and obedience with love is another leftover from Nightmare Moon. All the more tragic. And despite all of this, Twilight isn't even scared. She knows what's going on, and I wish she would stay this competent, the rest of the time. Luna finally reveals her thoughts, which I mentioned earlier, that since they refuse to love her and instead fear her, she will cancel Nightmare Night, a quote-unquote celebration she calls insulting, forever. As I said, she sees this less as a celebration of her and more of like a demonization of her mistakes, which is fair, but we're gonna do more with that later. Applejack remarks how everything was going well, but now here they are. Children crying, with adults trying to console them, all because Pinky is an insensitive idiot, incapable of understanding the situation. Don't get me wrong, I have first-hand experience being in Pinky's position, but I've learned from those mistakes. Pinky doesn't, and won't learn. We even talked about last episode how she was treating Twilight the same way she was treated in Party of One. Pinky deserves this bad friend point. Wow, Twilight immediately comes up with a plan to save both Nightmare Night and Luna at the same time in a matter of seconds. She's so smart and quick-witted. If only she didn't turn into a potato and almost die regularly to forgetting she's magic. Anyway, her plan is to lecture Luna, not Pinky. Twilight then notices how upset Luna is and instead tries to tell her about how beloved Nightmare Night is, and Luna is just in disbelief as she claims that the quote-unquote shrieks of quote-unquote joy as they quote-unquote run away tell a different story. Luna is just failing to understand what Pinky is going to use to justify her abysmal behavior. Twilight then lures Pinky into an alley with candy. Normally I criticize, but you go, Twilight, catch that chicken. Twilight makes absolutely sure that Pinky won't scream or shriek so they can properly talk. Twilight then has Luna come over and Pinky suppresses her shriek as Luna tries to extend a hoof of friendship and peace. Honestly, we might be seeing a lot of what Celestia would want to do if she was in a less public and obvious position, which is try to be friendly and kind with people, because Luna's being very just generally personable here compared to Celestia, who always has to maintain that unfortunate distance, or that distance just keeps getting put in between them without her being able to really do much about it. Bit unfortunate. And this is where Rainbow botches everything. You know what? She exacerbated the problem, so she's getting a point too. This isn't unrelated and causes extra sorrow onto the existing problem. On an unrelated note, the fact that Rainbow's outfit has the noticeable stitches means that she not only made it herself, but she's also just not as good at craft as the other characters, because Twilight did make hers herself, but doesn't have nearly as many noticeable blemishes. But yeah, screw you, Rainbow, how dare you. Another lower stakes situation, still important mind you, but not life and death, where Twilight actually remembers she can teleport. This is never not gonna bother me. And here we are with the whole Pinky situation. So Twilight tries to explain the Luna situation to Pinky, and Pinky just hits us with the brick through the window of, well, duh, and explains that sometimes it's fun to be scared. Pinky had an entire song about how when something is scary, you just laugh at it so it loses its power. Oh, that must be a future episode. No, wait, that's literally episode 1. But I do get that the whole point of the episode, other than Luna's character introduction and development, is telling kids it's okay to be scared sometimes. But goddamn, could they not have done it better? Like Fluttershy's episode in later seasons? Not the Flutterbat one, the other one. After disappearing when Luna first arrived, Zecora returns and is being used by Twilight for her plan to get Luna to be liked, using a character that was previously not liked by Ponyville to help another character currently not liked by Ponyville to, become liked is some fun, I don't know what to call it, symbolism? I don't know, it's just good storytelling at the end of the day. And so Zecora, and even the mayor, who's not in on it but just goes with the flow, convince the Phillies to do the annual candy offering to end out the night, which lures every pony to the statue where Luna is waiting and hiding to pull off quite the scare. Luna replaces the statue with her disguised as the actual Nightmare Moon instead, claiming that the candy offering has pleased her to not eat the little Phillies. It's honestly quite scary that Luna is capable of entering the Nightmare Moon state even if it's just an illusion. That entire situation has messed her up psychologically, so it can't be easy for her to do that, but she plays it off well. Not sure where the statue went though. Luna, after they all run off, expresses her concern that it didn't seem to make them like her at all, only for Twilight to hit her with the, wait for it, Pip tugs Luna's mane, so it is tangible. Despite Celestia and Luna having such wildly different manes than any other pony, their manes are like an internal mystery. It's just an alicorn thing, I guess, but only like really old alicorns, because Cadance doesn't have it yet. Pip explains the whole "we like being scared, it's fun" prospect to Luna, and explains that Nightmare Night's his favorite night of the year, lighting the long dead candle in Luna's heart, giving her some newfound joy and happiness in what she thought was an insulting holiday, reinstating Nightmare Night and vowing to celebrate it even more in the future. Pip even calls Luna his favorite princess and hugs her hoof. So cute and adorable and wholesome, I'm gonna explode! And our letter to Celestia is about how one of the greatest joys of friendship is being able to help others find it as well, and that even if someone looks a bit scary, if you offer them your friendship, you might just find a whole new person underneath. Similar to some season 1 episodes, some dangerous looking folks are just dangerous and you should be very careful. But the first half is really good and wholesome. Also, Luna even starts cracking jokes like this, so that's cute. Luna even gets revenge on Rainbow by shocking her with a lightning cloud, which is good, just desserts for Rainbow. She's a Pegasi as we talked about, so she'll be fine. Do the outro. And that was season 2 episode 4, Luna Eclipsed. I absolutely adore this episode. Luna is one of my favorite characters in the show, and while this wasn't, a flawless first showing, it was a really, really good showing, and we don't get a lot of episodes with the princesses. I think each of them gets like 2, and they share 1, and they have a bunch of like cameos and guest appearances. So we don't get like a big deep dive into their characters. We get a lot into Luna's psychology later on in 1 episode, whereas we only get like maybe 1 foray into Celestia's psychology. We get a lot of character work for them where they're relatively consistent outside of episodes that are directly focused on them, except for Luna, who's mostly consistent until that 1 episode I really don't like, and we're gonna get to it, and that's gonna have a multitude of angry rants in it. But for this episode, it's really fun. I really enjoy it. Unfortunately, they completely bastardized Pinky, and Rainbow's just a jerk for no reason, but not like a horrendous jerk, just exacerbating the existing problems, which I guess she's not aware of them, so she didn't know she was doing that, but whatever. I'm gonna just go ahead and give this one a 7 out of 10, maybe an 8. No, I think 8 needs to be for like a really, really good episode that doesn't have great music or emotions. This one had really good emotions though. Do I just do like my first 0.5, do like 7.5? Honestly, I think that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna give it the first 0.5 and make it a 7.5. It's better than most of the 7s, but I don't know if it's as well done as most of the 8s, mainly because of the Pinky problems. That being said, Twilight is also written really well in this episode. We'll give it the 8. It'll probably change on like the full series or the full season ranking, but for now I'm just gonna give it the 8 because Twilight's written really well, Luna's written really well, Spike, Pinky, and Rainbow are all kind of iffy. Applejack is a non-factor, Fluttershy is a non-factor, and Rarity doesn't even appear in this episode, I'm pretty sure. This is a holiday all about costumes. Where the heck was Rarity? Whatever. See you guys later.